Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a video for you about the maps in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. More specifically, the lack thereof, the perception of the lack of maps, and the drip content that's coming to this game instead of big updates. You may have seen, even in this comment section, definitely on Twitter and Reddit and elsewhere in social media, the claim from the community that Modern Warfare has less content at launch than any other Call of Duty game, specifically when it comes to maps. We have less maps at launch than any other COD game. This game launched with 6 maps. Modern Warfare 2, a decade ago, launched with 16 maps, and instead of getting the full 16, they're either done or mostly done, or Infinity Ward's working on something else, and they're dripping the content to us. We're not even getting big content updates with several maps. You're just getting one map every couple of weeks, just like one drop of water dripping from a sink into maybe a man dying of dehydration's mouth. Just drip, drip. You'll get it eventually. You're not going to get the whole glass, but you'll get it over the next couple of weeks. Don't worry about it, sir. And I just heard this enough, I didn't really believe it, so I decided to kind of look into it and see if this was factually true or correct. I just opened up a notepad and wrote down all the maps and sort of did my own breakdown. And I have to say that, oddly, I almost agree with the community on this one. It's kind of like 50-50 on the content. If you want to get very technical about it, there were less maps at launch, but then when you want to add in other contextual things, it's actually doing really good context-wise, so that's kind of the discussion that I wanted to have today and offer my opinion on it. Let's start off with the 6v6 maps, and for the rest of this video, we're not going to talk about the night maps and holiday maps. While those can be fun on occasion, those are just variants of current maps. So of the 6v6 maps, there were only 6 of them at launch. That's Azir Cave, Gunrunner, Hackney Yard, Piccadilly, Ramaza, and St. Petrograd. Not a lot of maps right there. And that is less core maps at launch than any other Call of Duty. I know that there were some issues with Call of Duty World War II. They had less maps than what the community wanted, but then they had these war mode things, which were huge maps. And 6 core mode maps, because I think that most players, at least traditionally, have been playing 6v6, is not a lot of selection, especially for a big budget 2019 AAA game. I've played games that have less maps and play better, or more maps and play worse, so maps aren't necessarily indicative of game quality. However, the map design this year was also questionable. The community was tired of 3-lane maps and they complained a lot, and we got very few of those at launch. Most of the maps are very busy, very cluttery, very porous, camper-friendly, and very overall messy. I prefer the word messy and cluttery, and they're very difficult to play on. Some of them, like Piccadilly, still cause people to just completely back out of lobbies, and I almost feel them, man. Every time Piccadilly comes up, the desire to rage quit is just there because that map can be incredibly frustrating. So of these 6 maps, if let's say there's 2 of them that you don't like, and the most common 2 would probably be Azir Cave and Piccadilly. I hear those hated a lot, though personally I hate Ramaza more than Azir Cave. I can make Azir Cave work. If you don't like those maps, your playable maps, your enjoyable maps just get cut dramatically. You don't like 1, you don't like 2, you're down to 75% of your maps, you're down to 4. However, if you look at what we've got in the last couple of weeks, it's been roughly 6 weeks, no, a little bit more than that. It's been almost 2 months now since launch. So within 2 months, we now have 10 6v6 maps. They haven't quite doubled, but we've got 4 new ones. They added Crash, Shipment, if you want to count that one. A lot of people still play that in 6v6. It's a steaming hot mess in a lot of ways, but it's technically a 6v6 map. Shoot House, which was extremely popular, and Vacant is now added to the game. So after a couple of weeks, maybe months more specifically, we have a lot more choices in our 6v6 maps. We're up to 10 of them, so if there's some that you don't like, you don't have to play. You can back out and you'll almost certainly get a good one the second time around. However, I think what's really missing from this conversation isn't the focus on 6v6 maps, because a lot of these people only play 6v6. They don't want to try the new modes. They don't want to do anything else. And Modern Warfare isn't a game of only one mode. This isn't a game... Normally, Call of Duty the past years has been like Team Deathmatch and Dom, and anything else is like for tryhards only. But there's kind of a lot going on this year. We have 20v20 maps. You can do Dom 20 and TDM 20, and we have 4 of those at launch. We have Anya Palace, Arkalov Peak, Euphrates Bridge, and Grozny Raid. They haven't added any more of these 20v20 maps, and I'm not exactly sure why, because every other category has been touched up. But we do have those 4 as well, which would bring our launch total up to 10. Anya Palace I really don't like, and Euphrates Bridge I generally don't like. So personally, of those 4 maps, I feel like there's 2 good ones. I feel like there's 2 that I actually enjoy playing on, and that's Arklov Peak and Grozny Raid. And to be honest, Grozny is a pretty huge step up above Arklov Peak. Some of these 20v20 maps can be very frustrating when the teams get imbalanced and you're pinned in your spawn and there's nowhere to go. But if you look at it, that is still 10 maps at launch, and up until now, we're probably at 14 maps. But that's not all this year. It's not just 6v6 and 20v20. The team also put a lot of work into ground war maps, and I'm going to add a little asterisk on this one. Technically, to the best of my knowledge, all of the ground war maps are part of the gigantic Spec Ops maps that are like sectioned off, so you're playing huge sections of them, but they're still unique, new, different, and fun for Modern Warfare, and it's new to the franchise, right? It launched with 2, so you had 2 ground war maps at launch, which was Karsk River Quarry and Tovorsk District, and I thought this was actually the weakest section, is only having 2 ground war maps, and I think they had Anya Palace there in Ground War 2, which I hated more than anything in the world, and they kind of quickly pulled it out. So we just had City, and then we had Industrial Complex, and that was really it. However, we've now added 2 more, Grovnik Farms and Port of Verdansk. Personally, I think Grovnik Farms is the better of those 2, but it's nice to have variety. So we've doubled that within 2 months, and that's really a big chunk of the gameplay this year. That's a big chunk of Modern Warfare, is the amount of people that are in Ground War. I don't have any official numbers, I don't have any stats, I don't have like an Infinity Ward devil on my shoulder whispering me what to say, but if I had to guess, I would guess that Ground War is just as popular, if not more popular, than the 6v6 modes and the 20v20 modes combined. It's very casual, it's very chaotic, it's very fun. It's probably my favorite thing to play overall because it gives me a lot of unique engagements to have in a Call of Duty game. But so those have doubled, and we're up to 4, which is nice, but that would put us at 12 launch maps, and we would be at a lot more than that. Moving along, there's also Gunfight, and Gunfight is still kind of an underrated mode, and I don't play it a whole lot because I can't control the guns that I choose for in-depth or for commentaries, but Gunfight is very fun, and it does have its own little community going on, and the majority of the maps at launch felt like they were Gunfight maps. You had Docks, Gulag Showers, Hill, King, Pine, Speedball, and Stack. And that was 7 at launch, which was more than the 6v6, more than the 20v20, and more than the Ground War, and almost as much as some of those combined. So you had a lot of really little maps. And to a lot of people, I think it felt like, hey, we put all our work into this 2v2 thing, here's all the maps, if you don't want to play that, too bad. We haven't got too many new of these. We had Atrium and Cargo, which have been added very, very recently, and we got a few little variants for holidays and night and stuff like that, but that's still 7 total maps. So Modern Warfare as a game actually has a lot of maps, a lot of things to play, and a lot of variety. The problem, however, comes down to personal taste. If you don't like the big player modes, if you really just don't like Ground War or 20v20, that just cuts your maps in half. If you don't like Gunfight, that slashes them even further, and you're stuck with 6v6, and I 100% agree with the community that we have rougher choices in 6v6 core maps than we have had in any previous Call of Duty game. Because when I look at the maps that I like and don't like, I'm a neutral to Azir Cave. I like Crash, I like Gunrunner, Hackney Yard, I don't like Piccadilly, I don't like Ramaza, I don't like Shipment, I do like Shoot House, I don't like St. Petrograd, and I really kind of don't like Vacant. I don't think Vacant plays really well in this particular Call of Duty, even though it's one of my favorite maps of all time. It's just the gunplay and especially the posting up and mounting and stuff have made this one much harder for me to play. Maybe that'll change over time. I've been doing a lot of Vacant with like goofy, not good guns and stuff instead of what it's really made for, which is SMGs and shotguns and, you know, little like spray rifles, but maybe that'll change. But if I look at it like that, when I think about playing 6v6, I think about like, man, it's like 50-50 if I'm going to get a map I want to play or something that I really strongly dislike. So that's rough, and I can agree with the community sentiment there. I'm totally not feeling the 6v6 modes, and that might be one of the reasons that I spend most of my time in this game in Ground War. I love Grovnik Farms. I actually kind of like Tovorsk District. Karsk initially was one of my favorites, but now that people are getting smarter and better and learning how to play it, it's getting a lot harder for me to kind of go on streaks, so selfishly I'm enjoying it less. Port of Verdansk I'm kind of 50-50 on. I'm not 100% down for the layout of that map, especially the bridge and some of the weird containers and stuff, but it's still fun to play on as a change of pace. So I'm kind of rambling at this point. I'll go ahead and wrap it up. I think that Modern Warfare has plenty of content. As of right now, I'm just going to do some quick mental math. That is looking like, we're looking at like 26 total maps plus, I think, at the moment. 10, 14, 18, Yeah, 26 total maps at launch. So yeah, Modern Warfare has a lot of content. It just, if you only play one portion of it, the content for said individual slice is really small. It's just, there's a lot of slices. It's like one of those pies you buy that have all these different flavors in it, but if you really only like the cherry flavor, it's like buying a quarter of a pie. I kind of feel you guys on that. But overall, the content is good, and I'm especially happy with Ground War. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this little opinion video. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.